Hey guys, what is going on? Todd Fossey here. Uh, Welcome to the Tactical Jam session. A few things. One, I apologize. I'm doing this um, conversation a little bit early. Actually, a lot of it early. I'm scheduled to do this obviously at 8 o'clock p.m. on Sunday nights. As some of you may have seen, I am on the road. I was in LA this week and had to take an unexpected road trip back to Minnesota as opposed to flying. So I'm actually in the car right now. I've been driving all day, and that's why I have this awesome thing. I was in Flagstaff, Arizona, and I saw this and picked it up. So I've been wearing this on the road trip. So I know it doesn't look very tactical, but I don't really give a shit about that. Um, and I'm going to be driving all day today, so I stopped right now in Topeka, Kansas. So I thought I would hop on and go live. The topic here is what I'm going to call the truth about stress inoculation training. I'm just going to talk about this really briefly because I'm not going to be able to do a full episode. I'm sorry, this was all unexpected. I don't have the time, but what we are going to be talking about next week, I want to prime a little bit today. Again, the truth about stress inoculation and stress inoculation training. Some of you may know I have a 15-year background in psychophysiology, had a private practice for 15 years in psychophysiology, where I actually specialized in stress inoculation. And I did this in very scientific ways, lectured at medical schools on the topic for 15 years, used biofeedback for 15 years. I know an awful lot about how this works with behavior modification, cognitive behavioral therapy, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Also, in terms of human dynamics and human performance, as an elite human performance coach with elite athletes, major league athletes, Olympic athletes. And I do a lot of stress inoculation training at IDS. We do entire seminars on the topic of stress inoculation training. What we're going to be talking about next week, next Sunday, is I'm going to break down the science of stress inoculation. I'm going to say just a few things right now. If you guys have any comments about this, please leave them so I know who's on here. Hopefully I can see them on here. I'm not sure. But where to start? This is a quick primer here. I hear a lot of instructors in the self-defense and particularly in the firearms training world for whatever reason talk about the fight or flight response. This is going to sound like I'm being an asshole elitist, but I just want to be honest, intellectually honest about this. I can tell they really have they either have a sophomoric understanding of it or a pseudo understanding of it to make themselves, most of them are very narcissistic, to make themselves look more intelligent and more educated than more sophisticated than they actually are on the topic. There's some really great books out there. There's some really great stuff out there on the topic, but I'll tell you what. Well, here's my take on what I've seen so far. When instructors are talking about this fight or flight response, right? Is it doesn't really do anybody too much good to talk about fight or flight, or the scientific term is the sympathetic response. It doesn't do anybody too much good to talk about sympathetic response unless they're talking about what the antidote is, unless they're talking about how to desensitize it, unless they're talking about how to regulate it. And they don't know how. They have a sophomoric understanding of what it is in general, but they don't know how to teach people how to manage it. So that's one thing. It's sort of like saying, hey, guess what? When you drive your car, you can drive your car at the red line. And when you slam slam your accelerator on, your car is going to redline, right? but you don't teach people how to decelerate. You don't teach people how to brake and slow themselves down so that they can manage and handle their vehicle in a more functional way. It's really, to me, it's really like, okay, cool, great, thanks for letting me know I can go to the red line. So how do I slow myself down so I can manipulate my vehicle better? They don't know how. That's one thing that really bothers me, and I'm going to talk to you about the how. I'm going to teach you how to do that. I'm going to teach you the science and the neural circuitry of this, and how this neural circuitry actually works in reality, the truth about stress inoculation training. And I'm going to teach you scientific processes to have a conscious intervention to regulate your adrenaline, to regulate yourself emotionally. It's a very clear process for where and how you can start practicing this and how it works. And we will do that next week. The second part is the part that really bothers me the most, to be honest with you, is that I see big name instructors out there doing things within seminars that they call stress inoculation training. And it's not. It's not. They're absolutely and totally and completely fucking full of shit. It is not stress inoculation training at all. In fact, the methodologies that they use are quite the opposite of stress inoculation. They don't understand how the limbic brain works. They don't understand how the limbic brain processes information. They don't understand the neural circuitry. They don't understand it. Okay, I lectured at medical schools for 15 years on the topic of psychoneuroimmunology. I can tell you that these instructors are absolutely and totally and completely full of fucking shit. When you go to a seminar and you slam up against each other with fucking high gear suits on, and then you're going to call that stress inoculation. It's quite the opposite. I can tell you, almost exclusively, it's quite the opposite. Best case scenario, it accomplishes nothing more than video and marketing so that they can post those videos online. They can use a buzzword. They can use a fancy term called stress inoculation. They can slam up against each other, call it stress inoculation, and then people can go back and tell their friends that they did stress inoculation training when it wasn't that at all. Only adding to further confusion and only continuing to fan the flames of the Dunning-Kruger effect. They're full of shit. And what a lot of these people are doing is they're worshiping these instructors that are lying. They're worshiping these instructors that are flat out fraudulent when it comes to stress inoculation training. Best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that they are doing the opposite of stress inoculation. They are creating a more sensitivity to stressful circumstances. They are creating a hyperstasia when it comes to stress. They're deepening and sensitizing. They're creating hair triggers when it comes to sympathetic response. Stress inoculation is a process of systematic desensitization through cognitive behavioral processes and behavioral modification processes. It happens over time. And if you're not doing it correctly, if you're not doing it with a trained eye, you are creating the opposite effect. I've heard these instructors say, well, with my experience, I can tell you X, Y, and Z. Really, what experience is that exactly? Are you tracking and following your students for months and years following the class to get the kind of information that you need to have the right kind of experience to know what the long-term ramifications are for that kind of training? These are the kinds of things that we'll be talking about more in depth next week. It deeply bothers me. And some of these instructors that are teaching this stuff, I'm not saying that everything that they teach is shit. It's not. Some of them teach some good stuff, but they're flat out wrong and they won't admit it. And many of you worship these instructors. I'm not saying you to worship me. I don't want you to worship me, but it's flat out fraud. They do not know or understand what they're talking about. And this can really lead to catastrophic outcomes during real world critical incidents. And it can lead people to believe that that's stress inoculation training. So they go back and they continue to train themselves in the wrong way. And this is really a deep concern for me. This is why I'm here to bring it up. So next week we'll be diving into this deeper. Obviously, I can't teach you and show you everything, but I will at least be able to touch on things and sort of shine a light on things enough to hopefully help prevent further damage in this side of the industry. All right. So anyway, we tune in next Sunday, 8 p.m., and I look forward to seeing you all then. Thanks, guys.